Good evening. It's nice to be live again. We have four of the board members. Tara Hirschberger is remote. And for those of you who do have any need for a call-in, the call-in number is 1-877-309-2073. Again, it's 1-877-309-2073. Access code is 958-652-973. Again, the access code is 958-652-973. And get to, yeah. So again, welcome to the meeting, July 15th, 2020, I'm sorry. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And do we have any revisions to the agenda?
We do not.
So summary of non-public actions from June 17, 2020. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the public minutes of June 3rd, 2020. Mrs. Hirschberger, second. The motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. You're not here?
She was late.
That's right.
I was late. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I knew you were here. That's one. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Kimberly Hatch as a special education teacher at CHS at a salary of $72,481 for the 2020-2021 year. Mr. Burke, second. Motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Sabrina Nori as a CHS English teacher at the salary of $41,789 for the 2020-2021 year. Mrs. Hirschberger, second. The motion carried by a roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation of McDowell.
Not.
Huh?
Not accept.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Mr. Burke made a motion not to accept the resignation of Magdala Johnson, CHS math teacher, until a suitable replacement can be found. Mrs. Hirschberger, second. The motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes.
No.
Sorry, Mr. Myers was a no. Thank you. I think I get this one down now. Mr. Burke made a motion not to accept the resignation of Justin Ballou, CHS social studies teacher, until a suitable replacement can be found. Mrs. Hirschberger, second. The motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mr. Myers, no. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. That will bring us to correspondence, if there are any.
I have not received any
Okay.
for this meeting.
Did you? Well, we got the one just asking if the meeting was here. We all got that one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And it is here. I responded directly to her
Okay.
with the agenda and the meeting time and date.
Right. So that will bring us to superintendent comments.
So the first thing I wanted to just give the board an update. So each summer we report out to the board on teacher resignations. And we have data going back to the 2013-2014 school year. Part of this was a concern that was raised last year because there were a number of high school teachers that were leaving, mainly due to the failed teacher contract at that point in time. So we did a look at the numbers as to where they stood and compared it historically. So a historical look shows that somewhere between 8 and 9 teachers leave each year over the last 7 years. And so last year was a little bit higher than that because it ended up at 13, but we attribute a good chunk of that to the teacher contract situation. There were some teachers also who made career moves for administrative positions, et cetera. This year, the number stands at 10. So again, it's not a historical spike. It's sort of online with the type of data that we've been seeing. And I just wanted to follow up and report that to the board and to the public so that they do have a sense. And if you look at national trends and what they recommend, again, this is not anything that's out of the ordinary. there are teachers who exercise their ability to take a job in another district closer to home, et cetera. I mean, that just happens district to district. So I want to pause and see if the board has any questions about the data or
I
the,
guess I just asked to clarify that 10. also-
Unmuted.
Sorry.
What?
That 10 includes 2 teachers that left for personal reasons mid-year, correct?
that's correct. We had 2 teachers who resigned mid-year for personal reasons, and that 10 includes those 2.
Okay.
And these numbers do not include anybody who resigned at the end of their career, right?
Retired?
Nope. So
Yeah.
retirees, I mean, that's a given for everybody. Everybody retires eventually. And so that does not include retirements. Those are teachers who are gainfully employed and then have gone somewhere else to be gainfully employed.
Okay.
All right, good on that. So the next item is a request from Devin regarding the ELL teacher. And so if you remember last year, mid-year, our ELL numbers had increased. And so we had asked to increase the ELL teacher from a 0.75 position to a 1.0 position. And the board did approve that mid-year. However, we had already done the budgeting process at a 0.75. And so Devin's now taken a look at it, and you can see by the accompanying chart that it hasn't gotten any better. The numbers are still high, and in terms of needs that they have, our suggestion and recommendation to the board is that we increase that to a 1.0 position again for the school year coming up. And that will result in additional salary for the person and then additional benefits that they would be eligible for a total ask of $27,066.50. And I'm going to actually defer to Corey if I may, because I don't see here where it's stipulated how we would pay for that. Did you have a conversation with Devin about where that was going to come from, Corey, or is that just out of other attrition? Cost savings with hiring, is that how we plan to?
I did not have any discussion with her at this point. But I believe that would be the route we would take, attrition from other areas to cover that, to transfer it into that salary line.
And, a reminder to the board tonight, we had an experienced social studies resignation and math resignation. And we've replaced both of those positions with a relatively new teacher. So there's a cost savings there that, that's the kind of attrition savings that will result in paying for this.
Can
So-
I ask a question? If you add up her hours, it's only like 3 hours a day. Why does she need to be full-time?
She also does consulting with teachers and all of the paperwork and assessments that go along with that position.
Okay. And I see that some need to be, they're new.
Right, right.
There's planning time also.
Mhm.
So, this is a really individualized program. So if you look at students 6 and 7, an hour a day of instruction, but you need time to prepare what that is going to be.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I didn't see those ones. That was my fault.
Hmm.
Does she shadow them or does she have a classroom? I'm just curious.
I think she pulls them out.
I believe that's accurate.
Works
And
with them
notice
all.
that she's in 2 buildings. So that's
Yeah.
another piece. There's a travel
good point.
component.
Yeah.
And depending on how scheduling ends up working out, she could be back and forth. It's not just
Right.
half a day here and then go somewhere else. So it all
There's a
complicates
cushion,
it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So
That's about
if this is the second year that we've done this, move this position to full-time, we make a point of putting this in the budget at full-time next year with the understanding that if it decreases, then we can just drop it
Correct.
rather than trying to, this is 2 years in a row now, we're looking for $30,000 to fill a position that I understand it's floating and it's difficult to pinpoint it. And also now the school year is about to begin and the numbers. But I think realistically, we should just put the thing in for full-time and then back,
Better safe
be
than
responsible
sorry,
and back it off if we don't need the position.
I think, this is kind of a trend that we have at this point in town where people
Yep.
moving in are coming from other states where the services are provided and are expected. So I think it would be smart for us to make sure that we're staffed
Yep.
in the budget. Corey, you've got note of that for budget development come next year. If you remember, I think we asked in, I want to say it was March, it might have been February, to increase this past time around. So it was, beyond where we could add it into the budget for next
Right.
year.
I didn't see the hour ones. I only saw the half hour ones. She's 5 hours a day. Sorry, my fault.
No, I actually, when you said that,
I was just looking at the 30 minutes. I didn't even see the 1 hours. Yeah, she's busy.
So is there a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to extend the ELL position to 1.0 from 0.75.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
I just had a question. I'm wondering what precipitates individual needs versus group needs. On the chart, everybody is individual.
Mhm.
And just, seems like there would be some benefit in, for English language learners to be learning with other students who are in the same boat, but
That's how we do it in my middle school.
Well, and actually, there's a test that's administered, the WIDA, and then the results of that test indicate what the level of service is that the child's then entitled to. So, for example, if you look at student 9, it's monitor status because they're in that bridging mode. So they more or less have acquired the skills, and they just need to be. Are they passing their courses? So if all of a sudden student 9 is not doing well in math and English, the ELL teacher would need to step in and figure out, was it a language barrier that was causing that? So, but it's all driven by the results of that test. And it's a nationally normed exam that every ELL child in New Hampshire takes. And then that's what drives the service delivery.
as they get more proficient, they would move from individual to group.
Yeah, because if you look at student 5, notice they're still developing, but they have individual push-in, which I think is different than individual. So individual, I think, is the pull-out. Individual push-in is I'm going to see the student in the classroom. So the teacher pushes in, and then it's sort of helping them succeed in that environment. And again, it's all driven by, they're probably a high developing as opposed to a lower developing score.
It's interesting. We don't have any at Campbell.
I think it speaks to the demographic.
Yeah.
The move-ins are younger,
Right.
right? And so I think that's part
In
of the
the
reason.
age, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Tara?
Aye.
Tara's an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0.
All right, so the next topic is the preschool contract. And so I'm bringing forward to the board a revised letter that we're hoping to send out.
Second. Oh, I don't have my volume on it. I think Michelle might have a question. I don't know if she needs clarification.
Michelle, did you have a question?
I think you still have to take a roll call on the vote.
Okay, so not just who's not here?
Yeah.
All right. So all our votes will be roll call votes then. And Tyra's already a yes. Tina,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
and Brian's a yes. 5-0-0.
All right, so the next topic is preschool contract. So as you know, we run a tuition-based preschool. And in the past, in talking with Corey and Ann, there have been some families who have been quite far behind on payments. And so I asked, well, what is our late payment policy? What's the impact of that? And if you look at the letter, you can see the last paragraph that's there is what we've been doing, which is saying that we expect timely payment, but if we don't receive it within 45 days of the due date, which is a 6-week grace period, then we would consider not allowing the child to continue to attend. So basically, I said, I don't feel that our policy even encourages timely payments because we're giving a grace period and embedding that in there. And there are families who frankly take advantage of that grace period and are frequently far behind in the payments to the point that
So this is a problem.
it's a problem this year, for example, because we were going to close the books out with a family that was $520 in arrears.
That's a lot of money.
And then they were going to have to pay forward for the next year, which could have put them at $1,000 in arrears going into the year. So I worked with Ann and Corey to revise that. We looked at other policy or other districts and tried to come up with something that we thought was reasonable. So we're striking that last paragraph with the reference to the 45 days and replacing it with the 2 paragraphs above it. So basically saying, here's who to send your payment to. It needs to go to Ann at the SAU office, payable to Litchfield School District. It says they are due on the 1st of each month, as outlined above, which talks about how each payment gets applied. And then any payments not received in the SAU office by the 10th of the month will incur a late fee of $25. And if full payment, including any late fees, is not received by the 20th of the month, the school district reserves the right to suspend the child's participation in the program. So we're trying to get a more structured, tiered response to late payments. And then notice the last sentence is that concerns regarding late fees or financial hardship must be directed to Corey. The previous letter never really, it had Ann designated as the collector of it. And that put her in the de facto mode of people calling to say, hey, I'm going to be a little late with the payment. That's really not for the accountant to be dealing with. That's something the business administrator should be dealing with. And, you know, frankly, if a family calls us and says, I'm in a pickle, we're going to work with the family. You know, we will do our best to help out, but it really needs to be through Corey, and it reserves or preserves me as a path of appeal. If somebody feels that that Corey's not being reasonable, he can say, you can have a, you know, talk to the superintendent if you're not happy with this. So I think we've created a better process. I don't think a $25 late fee after 10 days is a burden. I think that just says the importance of getting it paid. But I want the board to really weigh in and vote on this so that we can get this out to our families.
Just 2 questions.
Yep.
This is all dealing with money. I just hate putting it in the preschool team with the phone number. Could we say, if you have academic concerns, contact the preschool team, any financial concerns, contact Corey, and then
Oh,
shouldn't it say sincerely Litchfield School District?
right. Good catch.
Yeah.
It's just,
that-
Yeah,
I-
it's not on the
I don't
teachers.
think
No.
the teacher should have to deal.
Yeah. I agree with that.
We can make that amendment very easily.
Just be a business transaction.
Right.
Nothing to do with education.
I have a question too about what kind of noticing do we do for families, and what kinds of, you know, are they able to set up automatic payments? Do we send out, you know, hey, the 1st of the month is coming up? Can we, you know, just send a message?
Yep. So-
That just a reminder that you haven't paid and it will be due on this day, and, you know, that kind of thing, so that if parents are cutting a check and sending it in with their kid and paying that way, that, you know,
So
they know when they're late.
Ann sends that out. So once
Okay.
we have the families accepted, if you look at the rest of the packet, the acceptance forms are in there. They can enroll the kiddo and so forth. So
Yeah.
if the board approves this tonight, Ann has a letter ready to go regarding the August payment. And it'll include, we've revised our late payment policy. So if you choose to continue on, this is the term that you're accepting. We'll update all those letter pieces. And she does contact
Okay.
families who are behind. So there's been really good communication on it as far as I can tell. I haven't seen anything that isn't solid.
So is everybody caught up now who needs to start paying in August?
Yes.
Okay.
So could I make a motion to accept the preschool contract form? So it would be, or just preschool contract.
Yeah.
Second.
Further discussion?
Is that something we do through My School Bucks?
We're not using that anymore, are we? We got some email about that. They're gonna transfer it over.
For food stuff?
Yeah.
Right.
But we're not using My School Bucks at all anymore? I know we food service changed,
You use it for the Chromebook money.
right,
Good point.
That was tied in with NutriKids, so the
right.
lunch program changing over to Meals Plus. So, all of those balances are transferred over to, I can't remember the name of I'll find it.
Yeah.
But there'll be a new, very similar.
Okay. I think if we
I
could,
thought that was so convenient.
it is, and I think the more business we can do with parents through that platform, the better. Just to, as a, keeping track
Yeah.
and sending alerts and that kind of thing.
Let me bring that up because I think it actually helps us to collect the funds that way. So, some families refuse to do it because there's a fee associated. So they'd rather just send the
Understand
check
that
in.
too.
So
Yeah.
that's okay too. But we'll look to make sure that tuition for preschool can be paid through whatever the system that we're using going forward.
All right. So Tina, you made the motion. Oh, Rob made the motion. What's that?
Tara's got something.
Yeah, Tara.
I have a question about the pre-K. The 125, basically it's $125 a month from what I got. Is that the same cost as last year? And is this program entirely self-funded?
It's $165 a month.
For the 3
Oh, okay.
days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a 125.
Is 125 here somewhere?
125 is for 2 days a week, and
Oh, for-
that's
3
for the
days a week
3-year-olds.
is for the 4-year-olds.
Okay.
Oh,
So
I
one,
believe it's partially funded through the IDEA grant because preschool is a special ed funded position
Mhm.
or program. I believe that's the way it works. And then kids, what's it?
no taxpayer money is going to fund this, right? Because it's entirely elective. That's my question.
Yes,
yeah, so it's the,
that's correct. It's
it's-
either paid based on the tuition that's received or through the IDEA grant.
Okay.
and
And was it 165? Was it the same cost last year?
it's actually been the same cost for quite a number of years. It has not increased. We examined increasing it, but then when we looked around at neighboring districts, we're right in the sweet spot. So it's not like we're behind what other districts pay or charge. And we were a little afraid to make an adjustment with the COVID year coming up. So knowing that there'll be a roller coaster of some sort. So we did not adjust it.
Well, that's good, as long as it's not coming out of taxpayers' pocket.
We get reimbursed for that.
All right.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Rob, you made the motion, correct? And Tina, you second?
You did.
So all those in favor? We'll just go right down the line. No sense in saying aye. Tara,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. 5-0-0.
All right, thank you for that. Next up is we want to talk a little bit. I'm going to let Corey take lead on this because Corey, Michelle, and I had a meeting with Diane Goro on Monday, just regarding the one-time expense or the one-time revenue coming from the state. So the $660,000, and we've got a procedural piece that we're going to have to follow. And so Corey will walk us through what we think we have to do and a proposed timeline to do it.
So based on the meeting, the 666,000 was the last number that was communicated to us by the DOE. I have an email out to Matt Welch at the
Tara, all you have to do is mute yourself.
The DOE to double check the amount to make sure that has remained consistent. I have not heard back from him yet, but I will follow up with him again. So since the amount, 666, was not put into our gross appropriation, that funding, if we do receive it as revenue during the year, it would be basically, the assumption would be we would return that to the taxpayer. We did not appropriate it, therefore we cannot spend it. So in order to rectify that, we can revisit warrant article 5, which did pass in March, which was the establishment of the capital improvement expendable trust fund. and then appropriate that money upon vote of the public into that fund, so that we'd be able to hold it for the projects that we're working on. In order to do that, the next budget committee meeting is August 27th. We would have to notify them that this is our intent, and then we would hold a public hearing and then one session that would act sort of as almost like a traditional town meeting, where we would have the vote there. This is not, SB2 does not apply in this situation. We would not need an official ballot vote of the public in order to do this. The school board has the authority to call the special meeting, and we are still waiting on an answer as to whether or not the budget committee would have to vote on that warrant article as well. So that's kind of how the process would go. Overall, it would take about 3 weeks. We do not need board permission to do this. It would take about 3 weeks from start to finish, from public hearing to special meeting and vote. So in order to do that, we'd have to post the warrant, and then we would have to, 2 weeks later, after the posted warrant and public hearing, then we would have a special meeting. We could do it as part of a regular, I believe we could do it as part of a scheduled board meeting. So the timeline, I believe the timeline is attached underneath that. The memo that explains the process, that gives us some kind of idea of the time frame we're looking at, notifying the board, and it just goes through the dates. These dates were provided by Diane, so we can set up a timeline to do it. Yes, Tina?
Would
Attorney Blando.
oh, I'm sorry, I don't need to. Sorry, got excited. The meeting itself, are we envisioning it as sort of the budget hearing where we're in the auditorium in one enclosed space, and we have a meeting that way, or how does the vote occur? What are the logistics for that? I'm thinking in a COVID world,
You can do it on a football field.
next month.
So Brian is correct. We could do
Yeah.
this outdoors.
Okay.
If it's a nice night, you could be outside on the football field, drive-in voting. There are other towns and districts that have done this, and it's a
Okay.
pretty slick process. It's who shows up, they
Yeah.
vote on it, and it's a
Okay.
one-question warrant article. So will you take the 660 in additional revenue and put it into the capital reserve fund? Yes or no? If it were a bad night, I could envision us using the high school gym, getting the bleachers pulled out and having people space out, wear masks, the whole 9 yards. So between the bleachers and the floor space,
Yeah.
I think we could easily accommodate what we would anticipate as a crowd to come to something like this.
Do we need to have a ballot count, or can it be, if you agree,
It can be,
stand on that side? If no, stand on this side?
yeah, it could
Just
be,
raise hands.
it could be vote by moving or vote by show of hands.
Okay, all right.
So Corey, because we didn't appropriate these funds, now we have to go through a vote of what to do with the funds?
Yeah, I mean, this was our intention to use it towards the capital
Right.
capital improvements and infrastructure.
I
Anyway,
understand.
we need, in order to be able to spend it, we have to appropriate it. So we need approval to appropriate.
How come we didn't know that before?
Missed procedurally.
So,
I think it was in terms of instructions from the state on how to handle these things. I think there was some confusion as to how to do it, and I didn't follow up enough to know that this vote would need to take place.
Corey, you had a different intent, because at the meeting, we were really clear with the public. Our intent was to use this money toward infrastructure, right? So we said that over and over again. You thought that you could do what? I don't want to put words in your mouth. So the way you were going to encumber that money to use was.
I was going to use it towards the projects as it came in. I didn't realize the procedural piece in terms of putting it into the gross appropriation when we went to vote.
so how was it supposed to be handled? Just so I understand also.
It should have been, when we went to the operating budget warrant article, it should have been included in the gross appropriation and offset by the revenue.
Thought we didn't have an amount then.
We did.
Yeah, we
We did.
So you're saying for like Article 5, instead of reading whatever dollar amount it is, it should have read $660,000 additional?
could have done it that way. We could have handled it as, yeah, we could have.
Or you could have had a budget item of $660,000 worth of HVAC work, and then offset it with a $660,000 revenue, right? So it could have been part of the operating budget, or actually, I think it's better strategically to put it into the capital reserve.
Yeah.
So we're not forced to spend it by June 30th of 2021.
What did other districts do? Did they?
It runs the gamut. My home district chose to return it back to taxpayers, but what they did is they passed, it's interesting, they passed a collective bargaining agreement that offered pretty hefty raises to the staff.
You can use that money to do it?
So it's offset by the revenue. And I stood on the floor of my town meeting and I said, well, wait a second, this works great in the first year. Who's paying for the second year of the contract? And they said, the answer was, well, the state's examining school funding and they're going to redo this. And I said, they haven't redone it since Claremont won. So I just,
Yikes.
everybody voting tonight to support the teachers, which is what I intend to do, just needs to know that automatically you're going to make the 6% raise up next year,
Jeez.
plus the 3% more. So now you're at 9% with no revenue. That's coming right out of everybody's pocket.
Aren't you glad you added on to your house?
So my understanding is that these funds were supposed to be directed towards infrastructure.
Yeah, that's
Is that what came from the state?
I thought Ralph at the meeting made it very clear that he thought that was supposed to be for infrastructure.
That was what the state said.
They
at that point.
did initially, and then they backpedaled
Oh, okay.
because they got pushback from some districts who said, we want to invest in our staff.
Mhm.
But again, the caveat is if you do that,
It's one-time funds.
it's one-time funds. That's exactly right. There's no guarantee.
So-
And now with the COVID, by the way, I think, the likelihood that this, that there's a second version of it is probably slim to none. So
Isn't
And
that
and especially where a lot of the conversation, like in our operations group, has centered around ventilation at all three buildings where we've had a lot of deferred maintenance. We're gonna need money. We will have a mechanical engineer coming in to take a look at what short-term fixes would look like and maybe get some more fresh air into the buildings. But in the long run, it's going to be a significant investment to get those systems up to where they need to be.
Why isn't this?
Corey,
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tara.
when did we get the final figure on this? I thought for a while we weren't sure exactly what the dollar amount was.
We don't. That's why I'm reaching out to Matt Welch, who works with the DOE, and he trying to get what it looks like, if it's adjusted or if it remains consistent with what's in the original biennial budget.
I think that will needs to come out of
So our
Can I-
time,
Clarification.
Shell
Yep.
Litchfield School District. Willville.
I know it was said that this could be part of a board meeting. It has to be separate. It is a special meeting. It has to be separate, but it can be quick.
And just so that if you look at the timeline, so back off of the vote on September 16th, that's a regular board meeting night. So we could have a meeting and then have our regular school board meeting right after. But Michelle's right. This is a separate meeting that you adjourn from that and then you start your school board meeting.
Yeah.
So then 2 weeks prior, which is a regular board meeting, September 2nd, is when we can do the public hearing. That can be embedded into a board meeting. So that's not
That's
a
right.
separate meeting, but you just have a public hearing as part of that, right?
Right.
so why are we waiting until, is there a reason why we're waiting until September?
Well, so the law says that we have to consult with the budget committee, and the next budget committee meeting is on August 27th. And so the budget committee doesn't meet until then. So that's our first window to consult with them. And then we can take action after that. But we have to have consult. And so the question that Corey alluded to is, it doesn't say the budget committee votes or makes recommendations or whatever. It just says that the school board, the governing body, has to consult with the budget committee. So
Right, so we don't necessarily need to win a vote from them.
Nope.
Just consult and let them know here's what we're planning to do. But I think we've already let that be known to them.
Well, I said to Diane, but Diane, at the meeting, we were crystal clear. The budget committee's heard what our intent is to put that money aside.
So we just need to approach them and let them know.
And have them understand. And, the other piece is that even the concept of a special meeting after last year's special election,
Right.
we need to be really clear that this is a simple procedural
Right.
process.
Just for a
and, just to get to the vote. Yep.
Have we earmarked those funds for the HVAC, the energy efficiency projects straight out? I know that when we were talking about capital improvement, our capital improvement plan, that was something we needed to get done as soon as possible.
With the COVID, the ventilation, I think HVAC are really kind of independent of one another. Dependent but independent. But I think the main priority with the COVID and with the shutdown is to get the ventilation worked on first. That's top
Yeah.
priority at this point.
Yeah.
We have asked, so remember that we've engaged with David Ely and Dick Henry to look at the energy and the building needs. They have brought in, I can't remember the gentleman's name, Alex, I think, is the HVAC, Andy is the HVAC engineer. And so Andy is joining in now. And what we have said is we want our HVAC systems brought up to code. They're not up to code, and we want them brought up to code. H.L. Turner report suggests that that's $1 million a school to do. And so we want to be strategic in getting after that. And obviously 660,000 plus some of the other money that we parked will be a way to get after it. And it is in the capital plan
Right.
as something we
As
need to get
something.
after too, but
This year, right? Yeah. Okay.
So also included with that is a draft of what the warrant would look like. Of course, would have to be reviewed and approved by the DRA, just to see what that looked like. And I'll continue to reach out to Matt Welch, or if I can't get a hold of him, I will reach out to somebody at DOE that can get me that final number that we can expect as revenue. I'm also asking if that's coming, because it will come as a piece of the adequacy funding payments. I don't know if we're receiving it as a lump sum payment in the first adequacy payment, or if it's going to be spread out across the quarterly payments we receive from the state. But either way, we can, once we know that amount and it's coming, once it's been appropriated, we can make the transfer.
Mike, you heard there's just an extra will in there, right?
And this
Where
warrant
is it?
article is very
There's
much a
Sheldon.
draft.
Sheldon
Yeah.
Litchfield School District will vote.
Michelle was kind enough to help me draft this out
Commenting
today.
on it.
So there any additional questions on this process, or
We need a motion.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure. Michelle, what do you think?
Well, I
I
want to make sure the language of the article is right before the board votes on it. But if the board feels comfortable, maybe giving a motion, making a motion for us to allow to go forward with it.
That's I would think.
I don't know if that's necessary, but
I think it helps because we have to work with legal on it. So our next meeting is August, what's the date?
19th, I think.
19th. You know, I think,
We have another one in between, don't we?
well,
Yeah, but July
29th is
29th,
for
but
task force.
I think we're gonna need one before the 19th of August.
and then August
We have
5th
the
is being
Tentative,
held
yeah.
if we need it.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so it's
We're
on.
gonna need
it's
it.
a
I think we're gonna
tentative.
need it. Yeah.
But I mean, if the board takes some sort of motion to move ahead, I think it's important that Brian have a conversation with Andrew
Yeah.
so that you begin the process of, consulting with you don't want to walk in on the 27th with, hey, we've got a plan for you,
Right,
right? So you
right.
want to begin priming the pump and.
I'm sure Andrew's watching. If not, he will watch this meeting and he'll know, but I'll reach out to him.
Thank you. I think too,
So if we don't do this, we lose the money, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much, okay, I make a motion to move forward.
I
second.
Oh, Jinx.
Tina got there before you.
Sounds good.
Tara made the motion. Tina second. So all those in favor, Tina,
I,
Tara,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. 5-0-0.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And then the last thing is the school board audit questionnaire, which Brian, I think, is going to, actually, I have one more thing after that, but Brian's going to work us through the audit questionnaire that needs to be done each year.
So for those of you who've been around, and everyone's been around for a couple of years, our auditors have a questionnaire that we need to fill out every year. So I'll ask the question. Oh, boy. So Michelle, am I gonna have to ask for roll call on the no's and yeses on each one of these?
No, I don't believe so. It's not a vote.
Okay. So it's just a matter to the members of the school board. The document is an integral part of our auditing process in order to assist us with gathering information necessary to understand the entity and environment of the connection. With this year's audit, please answer the following questions concerning your knowledge of the district's SAU financial procedures and return to our auditors as soon as possible. Think in advance. First question, do you have any knowledge or suspicion of fraud affecting the entity?
No.
Say yes or no.
No.
Have you received any communication from employees, former employees, regulators, or others alleging fraud?
No.
No. Michelle, if you have a yes. Have you identified any specific risk of fraud within the entity? No. Has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow?
Yes.
Yes. If yes, the document prohibits elected officials and employees from doing business with the entity.
Yes.
That's no.
It doesn't prohibit
It
employees.
doesn't prohibit, but must disclose.
So it's a no.
Right.
Does this document prohibit?
You guys remember what John York?
Yep. Well, it's going to be in one of our policies coming up anyway.
That's gonna be a no then.
I said a no.
Oh, sorry.
So the last question.
Okay, we'll discuss.
We'll discuss.
Well, why is it a no?
Because John York used to do stuff for the district.
Because it doesn't prohibit elected officials from doing something as long as you're upfront and open about it. So if you have a service that you can offer,
Okay,
then you can, but you can't show favoritism, that type of thing.
okay.
That's,
Will that get
No.
us in
So
trouble?
no.
Huh?
Will that get us in trouble?
no, not if you're
Okay.
upfront with it. Like, it's in a policy, come on up later. Have you or any related party of yours had any interest, direct or indirect, with the following transaction or pending incomplete transactions since July 1, 2019, which is school district SAU or any retirement savings pension of any similar plan as a party? Sales, purchase, exchange, or leasing property?
No.
No. Receiving or furnishing of goods, services, or facilities?
No.
No. Transfer or receipt of income or assets?
No.
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 Maintenance of bank balances or compensating balances for benefit of another? No.
No.
Other transactions? No.
Is this as a board or as members? I'm just wondering about the receipt of income. We have, there's a stipend.
Yeah, that's not it.
That's not it. I think I ask that question every year.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
That's okay. If yes, describe. Does the board formally authorize all disbursements, both vendor and payroll, prior to release of funds?
Yes.
Yes. Describe how the board stays informed of the latest changes in laws and regulations pertaining to the entity. I think through our
School Board Association.
Yeah,
school board. Yeah.
HSBA. Yeah.
Describe how the board stays informed of the latest changes in the laws and regulations pertaining to the entity. I'd say the same.
That's the same question we just,
That's the same question.
that's the exact same question we just answered. Did you write it on the
Did
wrong
I read
line?
the wrong one? If the answer above is yet, no. Yes. Hold on. I wrote the answer up above.
Okay.
Try a different question. Does the board review in comparative reports of estimated and actual revenues, appropriations, and expenditures? Yes.
Mhm.
What procedures does the board follow in reviewing and using these reports? For example, does the board normally meet with the department heads As a part of the process, also does the board review both the revenue and expenditure reports?
Yes. Both, all. Yes, to all.
Yeah. I would say both.
Right,
We
above.
have questions.
Did you write on the one above how often we review the reports?
Through the
Oh, yeah.
VA
Okay.
reports.
Oh, through there. Yeah.
Has the board approved a disaster recovery plan in the event of loss of interruption of the IT function? Yes. Is there a written investment policy adopted? Yes. Have you adopted the use of either debit or credit cards by employees? Yes. Does the board have knowledge of any funds or bank accounts that are not in custody of the treasurer? Say no.
No.
I don't know.
What about student activity funds?
What about like student activity funds, like at
Right,
Campbell High
But
School?
we're aware of them and the BA's aware of them.
Okay,
It's still under the EIN of the
Okay.
district, still
Okay.
in the treasurer's custody.
Yeah.
okay.
Has the board approved the fund balance policy in compliance with GASB number 54? Yes. Corey can put the most current copy. Does the school district SAU have knowledge of any crowdfunding activities? If so, please indicate what they are and maintain and who is responsible. Would that be the student funds?
Well, that'd be all those sports things.
Fundraisers.
Crowdfunding.
Corey? Unmute.
There's no crowdfunding activity.
Okay,
don't
what
even know what
is, so
that
what
is.
is crowdfunding?
I'll ask them about the things.
That'd be like a GoFundMe page or some, like those types of things. The district's not involved in any of those.
So fundraising doesn't fall into that?
No, I don't believe so. A different designation.
But the money goes to the sporting things in the school. is
This
what
would be like an electronic fundraising type thing.
Like
We
what
do
they
that.
did for
Right, but we did that for wrestling
in
and,
soccer.
Snap, is that what it's called?
Yeah, one of those.
so would that be considered crowd fundraising, whatever?
Was that run by the school district?
It's run by the sports.
But they're boosters, right?
No,
So,
it was the
No.
athletics.
It was run by
teams.
athletics.
It was
oh, it was run through the department?
And I think there's more than,
We approved the fundraiser.
right.
Yeah. What is crowdfunding and how does it work?
I mean, I think that,
Well, it's asking, if so, please indicate what they are and on what website they are maintained and who is responsible for them.
Athletics. Well,
Well, how many do we have though?
but it's the individual coaches in athletics. Do you know what I mean? Like, isn't the girls softball, soccer coach in charge of the GoFundMe or whatever they did?
well, that's.
And
what
then
we
it goes
Yeah,
all
it's,
under, then it goes to Josh?
I'll reach out to Bill and Josh and get the information on the sites that were used. There was also Raise Craze was
Yep.
internet based as well
No,
too.
that's PTO. That's not related to the
That's not
district.
school?
That's run 100% through the PTO.
But I would check in the middle school too on this particular one as far as,
Oh, because then we had to accept that as a gift.
Right.
We don't have to accept fundraising funds. They just take it for their individual sports. The PTO does all sports. But
No,
not the
the race-
PTO, the
What did you write,
Boosters.
Brian?
booster.
I'm just
Jack.
gonna let Corey know. So Corey, just so you know that what I wrote on that one is yes, please see attached. So whatever you have, you can just attach it because
And is it beyond high school athletics or is that really?
it doesn't say, it says, does the school district SAU have knowledge of any crowdfunding activities?
But do we have knowledge beyond
That's the only one I can.
the
think of.
athletics? I think that's the only one.
I agree.
So if
Yeah, the
you,
different,
so if you wrote,
all right, school
school
athletics.
athletics,
High school.
because this will go to the auditor and then they'll dig in and ask, what
Okay.
is this all about? Show us it.
Well, I can't think, did the middle school do anything like that as far as fundraising?
I don't recall.
They don't do anything like that for like the DC trip as far as like getting funds that way?
No. They do sales and things, but I don't think they do an electronic fundraiser or
So it doesn't-
crowdfunding.
Okay. And the last question, since the World Health Organization's declaration of the worldwide pandemic due to coronavirus COVID-19, how is the board adopted to making financial decisions, reviewing budget versus actual reports, and approving vendors and payroll manifests. I would say
We
the
did pretty
same.
good.
Yeah, I think we're doing excellent.
Right, I would say the
Couple
same.
weeks here and there, a little bumpy, but we got it done.
We're doing a good job.
So I'm just going to put down same, just went to a different location.
Right.
Yeah.
That's that. All right. So that'll bring us to school board comments.
Could be a question?
I'm sorry.
Oh, if I may, one other quick
Oh,
thing.
I'm sorry, yes, yes.
So at the last meeting, we had talked about the breakfast program starting up at GMS and LMS. We don't see a vote that we took place on it. And I think the board wanted to think about it, or how exactly did we?
We had to
Done that.
talk about the schools, about letting, I mean, they don't let kids into LMS until
Right, that was the
7:30.
question. It's like, what
Yeah.
time are they going to get in? How are they going to do it?
Well, and especially right now, I don't know if this is the best time to start a food service
Breakfast.
program first thing in the morning. We don't even have a plan for arrival
Yeah, but,
Or drop off.
dropping off kids, so.
but if we do, they want to have it running, for kids that need it.
I guess if we had authorization to begin the program, it will allow operations, which has food services part of it,
Yep,
to factor
figure that
that
out
in.
too.
And
So-
Thanks a lot.
Here's my one question then about this, that let's say we end up being remote. Are we going to start serving free breakfast now too?
We already
Yeah,
did.
sure.
If you picked up your meals
Mhm.
during remote learning in the spring, you got breakfast and lunch.
You did.
We did, yeah.
There was a there's already a breakfast program at the high school,
school.
and it just extended to when we were serving all families out of CHS.
Okay.
It expanded to
All right, so,
serving every child that picked up meals. That's where the initial idea to extend to the rest of the district
okay.
came.
So are we going to give it to anyone and everyone for free? Or are we going to charge those people who
I
can
don't know
afford it?
It's if we're back in, I don't know if the waivers extended through. We don't know from a federal level if the waivers to provide free meals to everybody have extended into next school year. I don't believe so. I think that was just through the end of the year.
Okay.
So unless those waivers are re-upped again, I think you go into the process of going to back in school in some capacity. Meal prices are back in play, and we're going to be getting local revenue from food service again.
Right, but at the end of the year, we were giving away free meals to anyone who wanted them. Not just
Yeah.
those who couldn't afford them.
We were being reimbursed for free meals 100% by the federal government, which they're reimbursed at a higher rate than reduced or full price meals. So we received like I think it's around $5 a meal served gets reimbursed from the federal level at free rate.
So maybe that's how our food service can make money this year, then just give away free food and have the government pay for it?
Let me
Not
tell you what this
necessarily.
mother would do. If I had a middle schooler, Michael would be having breakfast every morning so I could drop him off 10 minutes earlier and he doesn't have to stand outside in the freezing cold. That is what is going to happen. I'm telling you right now.
Well, we'll figure out the
They're gonna have to have
logistics
someone in
about
there.
getting the kids in school. The
Well,
question is whether or not
Yeah.
we want to offer them breakfast.
Tom and I have started the conversation. So we think there are some simple things that we can do. But I think, it's important to realize that it was free to families, but the reimbursement to the school district was increased by the federal legislation. So it did, you're right, Brian, it ended up generating revenue for us on the reimbursement side.
I would still pay $2 a day to get my kid in the
Right.
building 15
Right.
minutes early.
Yeah.
I would do it in a heartbeat. Because there was nothing worse than dropping my kid off at 7:20 in a blizzard and they're standing outside in an ice storm. They did let them huddle in the alcove once.
Yeah. We can't do that anymore.
No. Okay, that was my 2 cents.
We're working on that, Liz.
So
Bear with me.
in terms of providing free and reduced meals, there's still an application process, and I think being in the times we are in, I think it's all the more important that that documentation makes it to families to make sure that if you are in a bind, if you are in a pickle, and you need that help, we do have that available to families to aid in providing free meals, free breakfast. And it might, in terms of when you're serving breakfast, think about, getting the kids out of the house under normal circumstances. Now we're going into a whole new environment, and you might be rushing around even more. It's one less thing you need to think about if you can get your kid to school and there's something available for them to eat first thing
Exactly.
in the morning.
Yeah. And actually with the potentials for staggered starts or extra bus runs, that might be some built-in time that we can use that as an opportunity.
All right, I'll make a motion to have food service look into serving breakfast at our other two schools, GMS and LMS.
A second.
So Brian made the motion, third person. Liz second. So Tara,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob,
Yes.
and Brian's yes. 5-0. All right.
Thank you for that. Well, obviously that has to factor into all the other, and if it's too much to chew on, it's too much to chew on, but at least we have permission to plug ahead.
Mhm.
All right, so that will bring us to school board comments.
Da-da-da-da-da.
I have a question. Is that a comment?
Not
Does that
really.
count? Have we heard anything about sports
No.
for the fall?
So the NHIA has maintained that their intent is to run a season for schools that want to participate. As they have maintained that, we have watched the Ivy League schools say, we're not going to play sports.
Right.
We've watched all the Red Sox get the COVID. And so at this point in time, I'm not optimistic that that's a
Oh.
reasonable goal. And so Josh, Bill, and I have met several times to say, what do we want to do? We know this is a sports town. We know that people thrive on it.
Mhm.
But, when it comes to safety, we're struggling with figuring out how to open the buildings and maintain safety there. And then you add, the idea that football is tackling each other in the middle of this is just, to me, ludicrous.
But what
So,
about golf?
so we have,
I'm sorry. I noticed.
so we factored
Yeah.
in that like golf and cross country, that what we're planning is more students to sign up for those sports, because if other sports are canceled, then they might migrate toward the sports that are able to be done. But we're still not even positive that that's reasonable. So yes, so we're talking about all of that. It's part of operations. Josh is heavily involved in it.
I'm sure.
But trace it out. So we're struggling with transportation and how to get kiddos
Oh, I
on a
know.
bus. And then if all of a sudden we have 25 golf team members, you can't take a minivan. You're now adding a bus in order to transport teams and
And there's
clubs.
no way they could drive themselves to Passaconaway.
Well, so there's what's the waiver?
All the
Who-
NHIA
driving,
change their rules.
you know.
You have to take a bus to it.
So Josh had his NHIA a meeting this morning before operations, and then he came in for about the last 10 minutes. But he did discuss the one concern about being a Division III school, where a majority of the teams that you play are secluded type areas, such as you're in Berlin, you're far away in the state.
Brokeback Mountain.
No school district's going to even want a team from Litchfield to come into. Are they going to want to come in, have us come up to their locations to have games? So those are things that all the things they're looking into. So
I'm just curious to get an update. You don't really hear about it.
Yeah.
Just as I came in, Liz, they canceled the preseason tournaments.
Oh, really?
Or soccer.
The NHIA did.
Well, the hosting schools did.
Yeah.
Like we're having rec basketball games right now. Up at Dara, whatever it is, Talon Hall. I don't know what the right answer is. I know what I want for my kids, but that might not be safe for other kids.
Well,
Like at least in football, when they're tackling each other, they're wearing equipment. In soccer, they're more.
it was awkward the other night. We had our first practice Monday, and they're practicing right now with all the high school kids spread out, social distance, and there was the baseball and the youth soccer playing scrimmages.
Yes,
Girls are like-
softball's still
Girls like,
playing.
coach, come on. I'm like,
So
that's what we got to do.
that leads me to a question I had, and that's as far as transporting students. I know we have a policy, I know we've talked about and asked legal, but I'm just wondering on these circumstances, is there something that can be done to change that and we
Yeah.
can change the policy? And I ask because I'm reading what the governor said in his 54 pages of vanilla ice cream.
Flexible.
When he's talking about bringing kids to school.
Yeah.
Try to carpool as much as possible and
Yeah.
bring as many kids as possible. It's like, you know, it's like the circus van. It's like, but I mean, that's what he said. It's like try to get like as many neighborhood kids as you can, you know, children who hang around each
Why
other.
don't they ride the bus? If they can all hang out
If-
together in a car.
If they're going to not take the bus,
Oh,
if bus is an
Rather
issue,
than have one
Oh.
kid per car getting
right?
dropped
So
off.
carpool.
that's gonna be
So-
a nightmare.
And I know it's a little different because it's after school activities, but I'm just wondering if we can go back to legal right now, if we do have sports. Because I know the majority of parents would rather take 3-4 kids up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's even legal, Brian. I think that is an NHIA rule. You're supposed to
I think
take the
it's a
bus
state
to the
policy.
game. NHIA,
Hmm.
I'm 99.9% sure, because I cannot have a kid play if they're not on the bus going to the game for any reason.
Well,
I think
Well,
it's
I know it's a school policy. I don't know what it is. as
Coming
far as
home, but
by
I
law.
think
I
it's
think you're right because most schools then allow you to release.
release them after if
The
you have like
parent after.
paperwork. But
But
I
they
think
have to
NHIA, you have to go on the bus.
Interesting.
Can we find
Which
out for
I'd
sure?
imagine the NHIA is going to be thinking. Well, actually, I did ask my AD the other day. I said, "Are they going to talk about this?" And I know he jotted it down. So
Well, the reason I asked, well, first we thought the buses can only hold 13, so I'm thinking like the football team, there'd be a whole fleet of buses, which you're not.
Soccer
gonna-
would be worse. Boys soccer has more than the soccer,
Right.
than the football team.
So then, you know, can you use other modes of transportation, which would be parents? I know we can release them, but if getting there is the problem. So I'm just curious.
Corey, can you verify that in operations with Josh, that they have to take school-provided transport to an event? I think that's the case. I think Rob is right, but let's just verify it with,
Well, another concern that Josh had was, will there be other schools that run a program?
Yeah.
And will they be available to play?
I think,
You know?
honestly, I think everything. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but basically, from my AD, I was basically told anything could happen. He could envision a regular season. He said he could envision regional seasons where we only play, Lake Street.
Yeah.
There's-
We talked a little
I
bit
think everything is
about
on the table.
intramural being an option when you have 40 kids on a football team. Can
He
you
brought
do
that up
5-on-5
too.
and have home games, so at least they're self-contained in Litchfield, but there are kids, but
Well, we've opened our school grounds to more than 10 people, so have at it.
yeah. Lots to do on operations.
Any other school board comments?
I do have something. I'd like to say that I'm in favor of recording all the reopening task force calls, not just the oversight committee. It appears that I'm in the minority on this, but I do think it would be beneficial to have those recordings for the public to watch and understand the extent of the discussions and plannings that are taking place and the number of people who are engaged in our fall reopening plans. In the absence of these recordings, I have requested expedited minutes to be available for all task groups, and I hope that there's more information forthcoming on that.
Thank you.
I think that I know Corey took copious notes today, and I think making the notes are shared with the oversight committee the day that we meet. So
But where are they on our school
they
page?
haven't been published because we're not taking minutes because we're not taking down who said what. I mean,
Well,
Corey-
I know the technology, we have like an outline of what we've done that hits all the major bullet
Right,
points. That would
right.
be good to have up for people to view at least.
yeah, I wouldn't mind publishing those somewhere.
I'm going to, so tomorrow morning, we have admin first thing in the morning, and then directors are meeting. Directors are all the facilitators.
Mhm.
And so we just need to get them all into one spot.
Okay.
I believe Barbara created a shared folder for those to reside in. I don't know that, we've been going fast and furious with these meetings. I don't know that we've put them where they need to be yet. And so we can just mop that up tomorrow, because our intent was to have the summary minutes of, and notes, whatever you want to call them, from the various task force meetings, the work groups in that folder, and then to have it available on the website. So And Michelle has been really good about getting the oversight committee
Mhm.
um,
I saw those. They're on.
recordings
Yep.
posted. And just so everybody understands the procedure, so you record the meeting and then you have to wait for Google to send you the video. So that there's a little bit of a download time. And then in each case, they've been on the website the following morning because as soon as I get them, I forward them on to Michelle, who then gets them posted. So
But why aren't his notes on there?
they should be.
Okay.
So we just need to make sure. I think there's a folder. I don't know that we've made the link over to it. So we just
Okay.
have to
Okay.
finish coordinating it and we'll get that done tomorrow.
Well, the challenge with my group is that last week, the notes were taken in longhand, written on a pad of paper, scanned into our team lead. We never saw the notes ourselves, and what were billed as the notes was a livable, breathable document that we all had editable access to. I don't consider those notes. You know what I mean? It's that you need to have notes to document what happened in the meeting, and then fine, if you want to have a editable document that we can all work on and progress with, that's fine too, but that's not minutes to me.
Who's your facilitator, Tara?
Devin?
Okay.
And we had talked about not having, if you look at school board minutes, Mrs. So-and-so said this, Mr. So-and-so did that. We had talked about not having play-by-play, but more or less summary bullet
Summary.
point sort of things available because, part of the concern was we're producing about 30 hours worth of work. And so just having it be something that people can digest. So we were trying to get it into that summary form. I think we're there. I honestly believe the documents exist. We just have to get them all in one spot and make sure that we have 4 facilitators all on the same page with how to do it. I have the easiest job because I have the video, but we will get the rest of it also available and in the same location.
Well, the other thing too is,
That's why I think it's easier to record these videos. It's so much easier to record the videos than relying on people to take notes that could be subjective.
You got to get
They're
60
like
people to agree
anybody.
to be recorded, Tara. You're not going to get that.
well, the other thing too, Tara, is that when the task force meets, the facilitators then bring forth the discussions that took place. And they outline, all the bullet points of what was discussed and what direction that each subgroup is going towards. Yeah, so
Yeah.
really, I mean, that's the consolidation of the work that you're doing. It comes back to the task force.
No, but people like me, I mean, honestly, a recording or even detailed notes, I mean, I prefer a recording, but a recording allows us to all move together at the same pace. So I didn't have the benefit of any notes from any of the other committees last week. And I know I've talked to you guys about the fact that, I'm on wellness and there's a lot of crossover with operations because operations has food services and also the
Right, but any concern, any crossover from one group to another is brought to that other group. So that's brought from one facilitator to the next, and we discussed that on the task force where it crosses over, and then it's brought over, and then they have that communication.
Where? When?
But
During
this
the-
I
afternoon.
understand.
in oversight.
In oversight.
All of it.
Right, I mean, so like your responsibility is wellness. I mean, that's the core group. You should be concerned with what wellness is doing. No different than technology is doing technology. Then those facilitators bring forward to the committee, and that's when we
So
have those
we need to
discussions.
watch the oversight to
Yes.
see what Jason's saying
Right.
and what this one's saying. All
Yeah.
right.
And you'll get the overview of
Yeah.
exactly what transpired in that meeting.
Good. I've listened to them all actually, and I want to listen to the rest of them if I could, because I think they're great discussions, and I honestly think that the public would appreciate all the discussions that are happening,
Yeah, but-
and who are we, what they want to listen to or not.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other school board comments?
Kind of piggybacking on that, I've been wondering if we, because I'm fielding a lot of questions on Facebook. There's a lot of comments and questions and concerns. Can we put a suggestion button or a question button on our website that would, just like a form, a Google form, I have a question about, say, the masks, so I can fill that in. I can click a button that says, send this to the operations facilitator or group. And then those questions can be reviewed by each committee. I think, we have a huge task force. But I think people who are not on the task force and privy to those conversations and, don't know what exactly we're discussing. And frankly, there are a lot of outside the box creative solutions that are out there, floating around out there, that might be very helpful and useful to our committees.
I think what the concern would be is redundance.
Mhm.
That's my first thought. It's like, you have groups right now of like, how many people are on like an average group? 10, 12?
17 are in mine.
I mean, that's a large group of people like coming up with
Yeah.
different ideas. Every single person on the LEA and the LSS, if I'm not mistaken, that signed up and wanted to be on the task force is on a task force. The individuals in town who wanted to be on, we put on as many as we could. That other group, we're keeping informed by sending them information also. So anyone who like signed up is getting the information and being educated as far as what the communication is taking place. I think if you start asking people on Facebook, like, send a suggestion box, like you said, it's gonna be face mask. I think every group has probably already had 4 discussions on face mask.
Right. And we don't,
Not us.
I don't think it's for us to respond to every one of those suggestions or questions.
The only thing I'd say is they've
But-
already got the access to Mike to us to send emails that we can direct. I just think you're creating
A lot of
the
work.
same, yeah.
I disagree. I think it's an
If I-
easy way for
If
people
I
to,
could say one thing, I think if we were gonna open up something like that, Tina, I
Yeah.
think we would have wanted to do it a month ago, not with 2 weeks left to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're rolling into the game. We need to go forward from here with the groups that we have and
yeah.
get
This
as
isn't
good
the
of a
first time
plan
I brought it
together
up,
as we possibly
so.
can.
And I have a feeling
For the
that come out,
record.
when we have our meeting on the 29th and we have a discussion that people will be like calling in.
Tina brought it up to me last week when we met physically in my office, and then I promptly left it on the sticky note on my desk when I left.
Yeah.
So I come in today and I'm like, well, that one I didn't do, so I apologize.
No, that's
I
okay.
parked it. But I think there's a lot of merit to it, and in terms of once we get the plan out there,
Mhm.
then there are going to be suggestions on how to work within that plan,
Mhm.
and honestly, with the roller coaster ride that we're on, there are going to be ups and downs throughout the year, and I think we want to create it and have it available throughout the year so that people can just 2 a.m. they've got an idea and they can
Yeah.
fire it off.
Yeah.
Because there's just going to be a lot of flexibility that's going to be needed in the next school year ahead. So we will get it there and get it available.
Right. Thank you.
But honestly, what I worry about now, the mask thing, we all know we have to figure out masks. We have to
Right.
take a stance and say this is what
Right.
we're doing.
I agree.
And it's not by a public opinion democracy.
No.
This is what the research says, and this is what we have to do.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get
and I
some
think
nugget.
as people have notes to view, like like we want to put the notes out and see that these discussions are happening and we are making actual concrete decisions moving forward. I think a lot of those questions will be answered.
It's adding to a lot of anxiousness in the
It is.
public that they have no idea, like
Right.
Merrimack has a plan, this one has a plan,
Right.
that one has a plan, and
Got to stress again, nobody has a plan yet. They haven't been voted on. These are their projections, I believe.
Right.
what day
Yeah.
one, day two,
And-
like Bedford and
No,
Merrimack.
from what I understand, why I watched it when it came out because I was wondering about some of the things. I don't think a single school board has voted
No.
to approve a plan yet. These are just people throwing things out
Their
there.
task force.
Yep, they're draft plans.
Uh-huh.
Remember, they were all written before the state guidance came
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So now
That's
they're
the
going
other
to be
thing.
tweaked and adjusted. And the other thing is, and there's a certain amount of size matters. We're a smaller district, and so we have to find out what is going on in other districts because our staff live in other districts, so that's going to impact staff. And so frankly, we sort of have to wait and see what Londonderry and Merrimack are doing,
Well,
Hudson is doing, and then we'll have a
Right.
plan that's right for Litchfield families.
And I said
for
coming in,
our
if
staff.
anybody saw the news this afternoon when they released them, I believe it was a Merrimack and a Bedford school board. Don't quote me on that, but
It is.
a Merrimack and a Bedford school board member said, I'm not comfortable with
Mhm.
what I've seen. So they're plans, but they're not necessarily the plan they're going to use.
Right.
So, I think Mike's doing this the correct way where we're building the plan based on the data.
Buying into the hype. It is, because I'm
Just turn it
anxious
off.
as an educator.
Yeah.
Because that came across as Londonderry is not requiring masks, Bedford and Merrimack are
If
day
you
one, day
read-
two. And people, not me this year, but people with young kids are starting to freak out. And
But if you read Londonderry's, they nowhere say they're not requiring masks.
no, their assistant
It's kind of a
superintendent
draft plan, I
said
believe,
that
right?
he's
that
not
they
going to be
came
the
up with?
mask police, or she's not going to be the mask police on their school board last night. That's what got the whole thing going. So watch it, Ryan.
And that's just it. I mean, it's still in a work in progress.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different ideas that are bouncing around and going around and around. It's like,
Well, I can't stress enough. The first thing we did is hybrid has so many interpretations.
Yes.
So some teachers think hybrid is staying home 3 days a week or 2 days a week. And other people think hybrid is offering remote.
Right.
That it's the word's used too much. We need different terminology. What do we call it? Live teaching instead of remote.
Synchronous or
I can't say that word.
you can't
Synchronous?
say synchronous.
I just want to keep saying synchronicity. Maybe that's the police.
That's the police.
That's my age.
And I think that's important for the oversight committee to determine what are our definitions. You know, Mike, you were talking about the Sauhegan plan at the last oversight meeting. Having chunks. Today in operations, we were like, we need a different word. We can't say chunks. So sessions or segments or but having those common definitions moving forward, I think, are going to be really important. Otherwise, we're just spinning in circles.
All right, so Mike, one more thing. I got an email from somebody, actually she works for the school, and she was wondering if the school board is going to have any discussions before the July 29th special meeting that the general public can participate in. How to handle this is such a huge decision, one that I feel needs to be well understood by the community and parents and teachers. Any thoughts on that?
well, Tara, before we go any further, we don't normally discuss personal emails that are sent to you. If somebody wants to email the school board and ask that question, then we'll discuss them that way. We're not going to take emails or text messages on the fly right now during the meeting.
Oh, it was earlier and something that I wanted to bring up as well.
Okay.
Have them address the whole board so then we can talk about it. If they address all of us, then we can talk about it.
And
Okay.
in generalities, I mean, we always have a public participation part of every meeting. So the July 29th special meeting of the board is specifically to deal with the reopening plan, and it will have a public comment embedded into it. So there will be an opportunity there.
Yeah, whether we can take phone calls or some other public input, I think will be important.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know how we could do that if we're not allowing public.
I wonder if we could be live at the school and allow people, like in the auditorium, and allow people to come.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I mean,
Yeah, let's see what we can do.
it might be the gym and not the auditorium.
Yeah.
But we can try to figure that out.
Oh, community forum.
I think the first thing we'll need to do is nail down a time.
I think that's important. Answer
I
questions.
think we start around noon.
It'll be a long one.
Yeah.
Where are we? Am I still on school board comments?
We are.
Okay. I'll wait then.
All right. Very good. So moving on, we have minutes from June 17th. They need approval.
I vote to approve the minutes from June 17th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Liz made the motion, Tina second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Tina,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. 500. That'll now bring us to the BA update and reports.
Oh, you're muted, Corey.
Oh my God, press the button.
I keep losing track.
Yeah.
So I've included with it the approved listing from the board that was voted in June, and I also have we do have some additional items that were carried over through purchase order, just some things that needed to be taken care of. So that list is available there. Some of the things have started off. I did want to update. I don't think it's not one of the things that was on here, but we did have some. DLB was in this week. They were working on repairing the pavement back by the track, so that's been completed. We have completed a walkway going down to the stadium field, so there's accessibility next to the press box. There's also brand new walkways going to the SAU entrance on the side of the building, as well as the tech wing entrance on the other side. So those are some safety things, so we can get in and out of the building safely. In terms of, as it gets a little colder and we get in the winter, when those walkways freeze up, it's easier to clean them off and keep them safe for people. And especially in the case we are back in the buildings and we need to have a drill, there's safe egress to get down into the parking lots. Mike and I, the bids for the LMS Canopy project and secured entrance, that was due this past Friday. We have a meeting with David Ely, the architect, tomorrow afternoon to go through those and review them and see what direction we're going to go and what those final costs are going to look like. Let's see. We've also had meetings with David Ely and Dick Henry in terms of bringing the ventilation systems and such up to code in our buildings, especially with the concern about the COVID-19 and such, and the potential of it being, if it is airborne, we can start working towards bringing the ventilation systems up to code and what it would take at least to do that, and then see what direction we want to go from there. But they are working on very, very hard. As mentioned before, there is a mechanical engineer coming in to look at that project to see exactly what's going to take to bring us up to state code, which the state code mirrors the national code in terms of ventilation systems. So we are working on that. Finally, I have the preliminary unaudited financial statements for the three funds that we run, which is the general fund, our general operating fund for the district, the food service fund, and the grants fund, which is fully either through local contributions and donations or federal grants. Those all fall into the grants fund. So I've provided trial balances for all three of those. It's preliminary internal audit. The auditors will be here at the end of July to complete the rest of their field work. They did have two auditors in the building at CHS. I think it was last week. They came in, they followed all the protocols that we had set in place. They came in, they were wearing masks. We put them in the CHS main office conference room at a 6-foot table so they could stay apart. They came in separate cars, so they have protocols that they're following as well. So we expect to have them back in the building at the end of July. At this time, based on the preliminary, the unassigned fund balance to be returned for tax rate as of right now is coming in just under $600,000, which is less than the amount that we expected in terms of being able to return to stabilize the tax rate. So I did put into my report what that range would look like if it stays in that range. It's a 13-cent increase on the local tax rate, under 1%. And you're looking at a range from a $200,000 house to a $450,000 house. You're looking a range of about $26 to $58. So it's not a huge impact to the tax rate on an individual homeowner's value.
Versus what would it have been without returning any money again?
We were looking at, based on the $200,000 that we budget each year on the revenue side to return to the town, we were looking at a 43-cent increase in the tax rate, which would have been substantial.
So
Would have been a big hit for
Well, why
for
are
the
we only
public.
going up to
Oh,
450?
I'm sorry, I see it in the
To
graphic.
go up to 6.
Yeah, but you can do a
My house is
calculation.
assessed at 5 now.
It's the assessment, it's going to go down.
That's the information that I have tonight. If there's any additional questions, I'll use the unaudited financial statements to begin drafting the DOE 25 and the MS 25, which is the state reporting that goes up to the DRA in order to start calculating tax rate.
So Corey, if I'm not mistaken, at our last meeting, when we're talking about monies that were going to be left over, I thought it was closer to like 1.3 million.
That's in total. If you look at the financial statement, we got total fund balance is 1.1. So the list on the balance sheet for general, which shows the designations of fund balance, it shows where that residual money is going. So the 1.1 million gets broken out into the warrant articles that were.
No, I understand that, but at our last meeting, that number was closer to 1.4 million.
Yeah, and then we had final payrolls go through, final expenses go through, and it's just there were additional items that were picked up on the balance sheet in terms of accrued payroll that needs to get taken back into the prior year and such. I always do put a disclaimer on all my financials as we get towards the end. They are estimates as I'm going in. They have the open purchase orders. We at the point when I did the last set of financials, there was not PO management had not been completed and the final payrolls hadn't been processed.
So,
I have
Ken,
a
did you
couple-
get those numbers? Because you'll need it for the budget committee as far as,
Are they in the,
no, I'm talking about what the tax increase will be right now.
It's in the memo.
It's in the
it's in the
memo.
memo? Yeah. Thank you.
I have questions about this. Can we talk about that?
That's why we're here.
Corey, it says we paid 1.4 million for the buses last year. Is that what it says? And we paid 932 this year. So we spent half the year not using buses, about half the year. We paid for buses for some of it. Weren't we responsible for still paying for the buses because of our contract?
55%. Right?
55%?
Yeah, we paid 55% of the daily rate.
So what were we expecting the busing to be? 1.8? It went, how much was it going to go up if we only saved $200,000? That's scary. That's a big jump. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, sports played a big part of that.
Yeah. But there's still the regular bus. And there was something, why did inspections go up so much? Is that because we
Which-
did the
Which chart are you
canopy?
looking at? Is it in these grids?
Year-to-year expenditure comparison.
Okay, so it's,
Say oil tanks were.
What were we getting inspections on? Was this like the LMS canopy that the inspections went up so much from 6 to 18,000?
Where am I looking?
It's under, I don't even know. It's in the middle.
There's different categories in terms of inspections. I think inspections are listed multiple times on it just because of the designation of the account. I think there's we do an annual roofing inspection in which we had a contract to do.
Okay.
There's also
underground
this-
tanks.
two of that
Underground
contract.
tanks.
We
Oh, that's
also
good.
have all the internal equipment that needs to, the athletic equipment that needs to be inspected on an annual basis. There's different areas. Now, if we have specific questions on this report in particular, I can break down, because I did it by account name.
Oh, that would be,
I can break it down into finer detail.
I just saw it went up 169%. I was just curious why, because that's a huge jump. Nothing else stood out to me like that one. Just make,
And I can follow up on that.
Awesome.
That account in particular. if you'd
I'm
like.
just curious. It's always good to get inspections. I'm not against inspections at all, but what weren't we getting before this?
Right.
That rock wall, those rocks were a little loose.
Maybe the sinkhole. It could have been the sinkhole at LMS. Was that this year? I can't, it's
That
all
was
blurry.
last year.
It wasn't all blurry.
Oh, no,
Another one there
the
this year.
sinkhole was this year, the culvert was last year.
The last 2 years, just it was one long year.
And your comment about report cards, that was really interesting. Like, why
Yeah.
did report cards go up?
Where is it?
At the bottom of the
Tina highlight, why
year-to-year
report cards
compar-
increased
comparison.
by 20%? Different paper?
Right. Only GMS prints them.
That's true.
Card stock.
Yeah.
And even then,
Maybe a
I
stock.
don't think.
They couldn't lick the envelopes. They had to buy a automatic licker.
Liquor.
I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Anything else for Corey? Tara?
No,
Thank you.
Am I muted? No. Sorry, I wanted to get my quicker. I don't know if we discussed this, but PD, we were up 21. Did you already discuss PD? We went up.
What'd you say,
21,000?
PD? Oh, PD.
That is positive, but there's more PD happening. I mean, we knew that there was, but
I remember Mary talking about a big increase in that.
Yeah.
Could that be related to, Mike? Could that
The
just be related
district
to all those
professional
line
development
changes she did?
line.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
fine, went up.
I think that's a positive. I think we
Yeah.
wanted to spend more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I thought, I remember in the budget last
thought it
year,
went
it was
down.
all over the place.
Yeah,
because
she said she brought it all in
combined
together.
Okay.
Anything else, Tara?
I have the in-district professional development line that went down by $19,000. My thought on that, and I'll go back and I can verify and talk to Mary a little bit. I think a lot of the stuff that we did, she looked for as many opportunities to use grant funding as possible, so we wouldn't have to spend it out of the general fund money. So when you find those opportunities, those are 100% reimbursed by federal grant, like Title II. And I'll
Oh, so I was looking at the course reimbursement. So that was up about 21,000. So maybe that's the difference right there, Corey. Was it I thought Mary reallocate, like, wasn't stuff coming all into Mary's account this year, and it was
Yeah.
somehow.
she reallocated how she uses the course reimbursement, how she uses the course reimbursement lines to simplify it over the past couple of years. But I think there's a lot more people that have been taking advantage of the course reimbursement as well. So that's why you see
Right. If we can get a firm answer on the reduction in district professional development, I just feel like that was an area that we fought for with the budget committee last year to increase or to keep intact. And, you know, if our spending in that area went down $19,000, you know, over the course of this year, we need to have a reason for it. And they're going to be looking at reducing that line item if we didn't spend it. So if we can figure it out, if that was a transfer to a different line, I mean.
I think it's a matter of source of funding more than not spending towards it.
Right.
Which line is it?
I'm looking at in-district professional development.
In-district professional development.
Oh, it's
Oh,
highlighted.
got it. Yeah, because that was a 89%
Yeah.
drop. So we'll check with Mary on that.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't want to have that discussion while you only used, 11% of it.
And at the same time, with some of that COVID, and she was planning on the back end of the year to do some of
Right.
this, and that's why it wasn't expended.
I think that's part of it.
Okay.
Because we end up with those extra days.
Yeah.
So, because we were going to run Live to Learn
Right.
and we
Over the
didn't
summer.
run it.
I think what we need to do is be really careful as far as the year-to-year comparison when we look at with the
Yes.
budget committee, because, I mean, this stuff's all, and they're gonna have to understand it.
This year
it's-
especially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And next year, it's going to be
Right.
the
It's
same
it's going to
thing,
be, and
so-
it's gonna be really difficult when we sit down. I want to get ahead of the card here, but when we sit down and start discussing a budget with them, it's gonna be difficult to like say, yeah, this is how it's gonna be, because we have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for Corey?
Something else, actually, the teacher retirement went up by 85,000, but actually looking at our attrition numbers from last year, right? We had 13 people. So we think that's what accounted for most of that.
We
Teacher
probably had more
retirement?
teachers retire
Yeah,
last year.
13 is higher
Who
than normal.
retired?
Right.
That's the amount that we pay to the New Hampshire retirement system on the behalf of teachers. And that rate actually went up at the beginning of this year, I believe.
Yeah. Older teachers retiring
Yeah.
with more days. Yeah.
We pay 17.8% of gross pay in the New Hampshire retirement system per teacher. So as you get more teachers, and if you have teachers at higher pay rates, that amount. So as you have teachers leave, somebody comes in higher on the scale, you're paying a higher amount into that pool.
So a higher amount, but also higher than our normal average for teachers.
Yeah, it goes up and down as your staffing changes. It depends on teachers' rate of pay and where they are on the scale, but it's 17.8% of their gross pay that goes in there.
This is not retirement payouts. This is
Yep, it's what we pay into the state pension program for the teachers.
For all of the teachers. Okay, got it.
All right. Anything else for Corey? No. All right. So before we move on to old business, we're just going to take a 3-minute hiatus. Some of us have been here for like 4 hours, so. So can we just try to do it? So let's say 5 minutes. Everyone set a timer, so it's 5 minutes. Last time I think we went off for like 20 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer right now, and in 5 minutes I'm going to start whether you're here or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Muted.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So getting back to old business, we're going to be talking about VLAX and CTE.
Yes, so a communication came from Ms. McDonald just regarding the high school stance on the VLAX and CTE GPA question. And so Michelle and I have reviewed the minutes of that, and I've had a conversation with Bill Lonergan, because the communication that he sent out didn't mirror what was said in the school board meeting. And so I am kind of redirecting him to, that's not the understanding everybody had. This is the way the conversation went. And so we're working our way through that. Honestly, I've talked to Jason a little bit, because what we're afraid of is he committed to something that might be problematic with the transition from IC to Power School. So because there was a hard shut off of Infinite Campus on June 30th. So retroing back might be the hurdle that we have to figure out, because it's gone. It doesn't exist.
I think it was like Andrea tried that early on July 1.
But what's gone, Mike?
Right.
What's gone?
So Infinite Campus, so
No, but I'm saying if can I use you?
Yeah.
If Liz's
Well, she's gonna
son,
use herself, so.
if Liz's, or my son, if my son has a report card from VLAX that says B and can print it out, bring it in, and I know I said this when we did, I think any kid that's hasn't graduated yet, it should count if you took it a freshman year. I mean, it can't be that hard to add in a 3.0 instead of a pass with no GPA. And I just,
Can we just add another course grade?
I have to consult with Andrea because she would know, but I find it hard to believe. I don't want to speak for her. I don't
Yeah.
know 100%. But once everything's in, I'm sure that we can add whatever calculations in. It's just we can't go back into Infinite Campus.
Right.
yeah, that's understandable.
And see, I don't know, my son didn't finish his by June 30th, but, so it doesn't really affect me, so I didn't get to see it. But it isn't what we thought it was.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was what was confusing.
And I'd still push. I mean, I said it before. I'd still push that any kid that's graduating, why couldn't we include it in the GPA? If I mean, it can't. It's got to be such a small. It's not like we're talking 70% of our kids. We're probably talking what, 10%?
I don't know.
Yeah.
5%. If they earned it,
I
So
think we
let me-
thought about doing it this way because the kids were learning the same way the kids in the classroom were learning this year.
That's
It's
what
the
I talked
same
about.
exact,
And that's why I talked about doing it this year.
yeah. And I understood why seniors it couldn't count.
yeah.
Yeah.
well, and there had been other things. There were other honors and things that had been calculated, but that's why I understood it, that we were waiting till July 1st, and then we would go back. So the senior rank might have shuffled after the fact.
Mike, I'd even say
But-
I think the vast majority of the parents, like myself, my son took a VLX class. My youngest son took a VLX class. I think they'd just be happy seeing the grade on there
Right.
instead of the pass. Now, I don't even know if they'd care so much about the GPA.
Grade
being
is on
adjusted.
there now, isn't it?
Yes.
But it
It is
doesn't,
now?
it doesn't.
Because it was
towards
just a
the
pass,
GPA.
but
Right.
I just think that's important.
VLAX isn't easy.
No,
It's
Doing
not.
probability and statistics online is not easy. There's essays. Who knew?
So Bill's going to get back to us on that?
I have it on my list to bring forward at the next meeting, and I will clarify it with Bill. But we had to research the minutes, pull the minutes, and we'll definitely keep the board up to date.
We have a coronavirus update. It's still around, isn't it?
Less than 5 cases in town? 5 cases? Less than
Excellent.
5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, that Litchfield continues to be in a strong position, but I just had a conversation with Chief Fraisel, because if you read the ticker tape on the bottom of WMUR, Goffstown has 118 cases. And so I'm like, it jumped out at me. And at first I thought it was a typo, but I've
Yeah.
watched it over a few days and it's not. It's hanging in there.
Really?
So, it's definitely a cluster that has broken out in Goffstown. And if you just think about the demographics and the population there, it jumps out as
Goffstown's a
odd.
long
Yeah.
town.
It's also possible that more people get tested.
got tested. I was just
Yeah.
going to say,
They could have done it
how
back.
many of us have had?
Oh,
it
is there a
when we
jail
had
in
the
Goffstown anymore?
No.
That's what threw them,
And
some of,
women's prison used to be there, but
Yeah,
it's up in
that's where the
Concord
bad
now.
girls went.
I'm glad that Litchfield has had so few cases. I think that's a great thing. But I'm very wary of looking at Litchfield as, well, we haven't had any cases, so we can, it's field day. So,
Right.
because we're surrounded by towns that
Oh.
are really struggling with it, and we all go to those towns on a regular basis for groceries, for gas, so
I think maybe because we're all wicked smart here in
so
Litchfield.
wicked
Yeah, we
smart.
wear a mask
Wash our hands.
and
And
wash
we
our
care
hands.
about each other,
It's a new
right?
thing.
Yeah.
So just so the public knows, our task force meetings are up and going. We're going to tweak getting the information available to people so that it's all in one-stop shopping. And, with the governor's plan coming out now, it gives us guidance on what we need to do. So it's going to go fast and furious, but I don't know that we need to say too much more about it.
No.
The issues are pretty clear.
And the last thing we can say about it is on the 29th is when we meet as a school board and try to dissect and give direction as far as how we may reopen schools. Right. So that'll bring us on to policies. And these are the first 4 are second reads. So the first policy is ACR, non-discrimination. And these are second reads.
Yep. So let's just walk through these. And Holly has joined us. And actually, Holly, several of these policies are relative to workplace discrimination and HR sort of things, right? So can you just walk us through a little bit about the work that you've been engaged in looking at Title IX and so forth? Because I think it'll help frame for the board what we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. So the Department of Education has changed the law regarding Title IX. I took a conference for 2 days for Title IX administrators, going over the entire law for Title IX. So what they did was Title IX was really just for students. They have expanded that to include employees in the definition of Title IX. Title IX has a very narrow definition about sexual harassment from staff to staff, students to students, staff to students. They've really narrowed in on that. I think they had a lot of cases and it came from a lot of the colleges, but it falls down to our level as well. Under that new law, they have not only narrowed the definition of sexual harassment, but they have specific grievance procedures that we have to follow. Procedures from, the beginning of being notified all the way through the end. Also, in the training, we talked a lot about designated a Title I officer in our school district, as well as investigators, that most likely it's better off to have different people doing those jobs. And then all the way up to a decision maker, someone that after a case is investigated would make the final decision on a case. And then you would have another layer above that, which would most likely be the school board if someone were to appeal against that case. So there's a lot of procedures that we need to work on, checklists for staff, training. All of this has to be done before the new school year starts, August 13th, 2020. The new law takes effect. So Michelle and I looked at our policy for Title IX, and it also, while we were also looking at that, that's where this whole non-discrimination and anti-discrimination plan, the Department of Ed is really looking down at discrimination cases.
So do you want to take these one by one, Brian, or how do you want to?
Well, these are second reads. I mean,
Yep.
unless someone has any questions on these first ones. I don't. Anyone?
Sarah there?
Yeah, T.
Here she is.
They're fine with me. I was eating an apple.
Okay. I mean, does anyone have any questions on these four?
Are there 4 or 3?
Four.
Three.
3.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the other thing. School facility and grounds. All right, here are no questions. Is there a motion to accept? I'll say them. I'll make a motion to accept ACR, ADB, GBEC, and ADC.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Tara,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. So that'll now move us on to our next review of the next series of,
Yep. So the next series, these are all really financial policies. And the New Hampshire Department of Education did a review of our fiscal funds review, they call it. And they identified these as policies that were either missing or inadequate and asked us to take a look at those. So we replied to the audit that we were bringing these forward and that our goal was to have them in place by the start of the school year. And that satisfied them. They just want us to confirm in the end that we accomplished it all. But you can see that the first is a board member conflict of interest policy. You just did the thing for the auditors, but now there's a policy that backs that up. Administration of federal funds, and it's really quite beefed up with a lot of the language that we need to have in there. Financial management and reporting. There's then a change to our purchasing procedures and also our bidding requirements, and then travel reimbursement, with the last one being school equipment and supplies disposal. So when something has lived out its useful life, we have to have a policy on how we dispose of it. So those are all first reads, but if you've had a chance to look at them and have questions, we can field those or.
So I was not able to discern the italics. It was, nothing was in yellow like they normally are to indicate changes on these. Michelle had since gone in and made the changes, but that was this afternoon. So I don't feel comfortable on voting on these at all myself. I'm hoping that we can move this chunk of them to next meeting.
well, I think you can,
First read.
is anyone else not comfortable voting on them?
I haven't
mean,
had a chance to go over them, but
It's the first reading. I've skimmed through.
Right.
Legal
Right.
counsel have reviewed these.
Yeah.
And given me their red line versions, so there will be slight changes on them, but very minor.
Yeah.
They have to be in place in mid-August, but if we end up having a meeting early August, we could probably do it then.
Well, the thing is too, Tara can abstain if she'd like to from this vote. It's the first read. And then take the time to go through them afterwards for the second read.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Yeah, if you guys feel comfortable moving forward, then I'll just abstain and then I'll go next month.
Mine's in yellow.
She added it later today. She changed it.
Hmm.
It was all there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was all there. Because I read them before they were yellow.
It was
I
there.
didn't- I'm not gonna lie, I didn't.
It's in italic, but this font, the italic is hard to
yeah.
sort
Yeah.
out. So
Hmm.
Michelle went back and put it in yellow.
Okay,
But
so
this
I'll-
is a first read, so we can come back
Yeah.
and make changes.
Oh,
I feel comfortable with the first read, but not fully approving until next
So I'll
time.
make a
Some of
motion.
these
Do
are entirely,
you have to make a motion
Italics?
for the first read?
Right.
Yeah, the whole second section.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept for the first read.
Yep.
So except for the first reading, BCB, DAF, DI, DJ/DJB, DJE, DKCA/R, DN.
Okay, Rob made a motion. I'll make the second.
Brian makes the second.
Brian makes a second.
Who made the motion?
Rob made the motion, I second.
Thank you.
So we'll go right down the line. Tara,
Abstain.
Tina,
I'm going to abstain as well.
Liz,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
and Brian's a yes. So 302.
I actually looked, I could tell them apart.
Me too.
Did someone else abstain?
Tina.
Tina and Tara.
Thank you.
All right. So next is policy reviews. And the first one is GBAA, sexual harassment, Title IX, employees.
And so these are the policies that Holly has really collaborated with Michelle. Michelle, have these gone to legal yet?
Yes, I spoke with Diane Goro today. She is going through them and will apply. That we ended up putting an appendix in the policy for a timeline for certain procedures because the law was really complex and challenging to discern. So she's going to put those timelines in the procedures where they belong, and she's going to make her changes and have those to me by tomorrow afternoon.
So should we hold off on approving these or just do this first reading?
A first read in terms, it's a first overview of them.
Yeah.
They'll be tweaked and adjusted, so the location of stuff will be more formalized, but there's not a major substance change coming because these are based on the model policy and so forth. So, by and large, it'll be about sexual harassment in Title IX for both employees and students, so we'll be in compliance.
So I'll make a motion for first read for GBAA, JBAA, and Title IX legal counsel notice to district.
Second.
So I was going to ask, is that last one, that's a policy?
Yeah, Michelle, just to verify that the Title IX legal counsel notice is not a policy. That's just the memo.
I put that,
We don't
yeah,
have
I was
to
reading
do
through it, I
that.
go, why is that a
So
policy?
I withdrew that
had
one.
to change.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's
Can I withdraw that one or have to redo it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
it's
So I
two
withdraw
policies.
Title IX,
Right,
sorry.
two
GBA and
policies.
J.
Yeah, so GBAA, JBAA.
So,
Originally, the policy was drafted with both students and employees together.
Yep.
Now we have to separate them because it applies differently to each class.
That makes sense.
although it basically,
So I'll second for discussion. When I was reading this, I felt like this was a policy on sexual harassment that in a couple places the words discrimination and violence were added. And so, for example, sexual harassment was well defined, but there's no definition of discrimination or even, maybe violence is self-explanatory, maybe not. I don't know in the legal sense of it. The process was defined for reporting and resolution of sexual harassment, but what about the others? I just am not clear on the process of this. It's very well defined for sexual harassment, but what about the others?
I had the same, I'm muted and that's okay. All right. I had the same reaction at first. I thought it was kind of three different, a staff engaging in sexual harassment, a staff engaging in discrimination, and a staff engaging in violence, for example. But I think it's it's harassment, discrimination, and violence of a sexual nature. So it's one policy that addresses all three of those things. Is that my answer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the discrimination and violence is under the sexual
Right, because
harassment.
we have a different policy about discrimination, which includes
Correct.
sexual discrimination, but it's, race, creed, age, orientation, all those things. So this is just things of a sexual nature.
I mean, Title IX
That
at its roots is
Okay.
women's rights. That's where it started, so I'm sure that's why it's there.
And we can put a brief explanation in there so that it doesn't confuse people. Because the law, I have to tell you, the law and all the stuff, Holly will agree with me, all the information we received was just very confusing and a lot of legalese. And so making it more understandable, yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Attorneys and business.
Or even just
Well-
putting the word sexual in front of discrimination and sexual
Yeah.
violence. Just that would help clarify that.
That would definitely.
Say it again.
Put the word
If we put the word
sexual.
sexual in front of, so it's sexual harassment, sexual discrimination, and sexual
Discriminate.
violence.
Yeah,
That would definitely ban.
great idea.
I got
So let's
good
go to legal
words.
review anyway.
Right, right.
So just so I understand this in my mind, in terms of the grievance process, somebody can report an episode, right? They can report an incident, but that doesn't become a formal report until they actually what? There's a form to fill out, right? That then makes it a formal report, which would then trigger an investigation. If they report it but don't want to file a formal report, what happens?
Then don't report it.
If they report it, you have to look into it. As soon as it's reported, it has to be looked into under the full rule there.
So whether or not they
Hide it.
report it as a formal report,
There's no such thing. If you report it, it's there. Period.
Right.
The end.
distinction in there that there's definitely a distinction in there.
If you make the claim, and what we've learned is that you can't say, oh, okay, so here, fill out this form. A person can say, I don't want to fill out the form. So then we have to fill out the form based on the claim, right? I think I'm explaining all this right, Holly. So the minute it's out in the ether because somebody has made the claim, the responsibility is on us as the employer or the school district for students to follow up on that and to flesh it out.
Which I think is true for most employers.
So
It is.
they
Post any
Employer.
complaint.
report it, we look into it, but they have the choice whether or not they want to fill out that form to report it formally.
I would think we have a responsibility that if someone brings forward
Yeah.
some type of sexual harassment that happened to them, we're going to investigate it.
Yeah,
I don't care if they
yeah.
fill out the form or not.
As far as I know, as soon as it's
That would
brought
be-
forward, it
Right.
has to.
Yes, as soon as it becomes vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We own it.
So
Yep.
the way the law is, as I understand it, is asking somebody to fill the form out can be seen as an obstacle or a barrier
Yeah.
to it, and you have to remove all those obstacles and barriers and take on the responsibility to look into it.
And if I may add, the way the attorney explained it to me, it isn't considered a formal complaint until the Title IX coordinator signs it.
Okay. So they all have to go to the Title IX coordinator, which is Holly.
Which will most likely happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Once it's filed.
Okay, what's the, does filing the document actually trigger another set of actions formally? If we're gonna report,
As soon as they bring it up,
do
it
the
triggers the act.
investigation.
The documents don't matter, Tara. As soon as it's brought up, we're legally required to follow through on
Yeah.
everything.
Right. Rob's right. We have to look into it no matter what it is, whether it's formal or not. But a formal complaint becomes a formal complaint when it's completed by the person, given to the Title IX coordinator and signed. Now it's a formal complaint. And that triggers investigation, which the grievance process precedes. But the investigation, we still have to compile evidence. We still have to gather evidence. So it's kind of intertwined with that grievance process, the investigation.
But you just said the formal complaint triggers the grievance process, but it's really not a formal complaint, it's any complaint.
Any complaint, but a formal one will trigger a deeper dive, from what I understand.
Because we could get in a complaint that could be sexual in nature, but doesn't meet the definition for Title IX. Obviously, we're still gonna, get that complaint and it's gonna be investigated. I think where it comes into the formal complaint and signing it as the Title IX coordinator, it's meaning that we believe that this complaint complies with the definition of Title IX.
Oh, I see, okay, that's fine.
Any other discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor? Tara?
Aye.
And this is for first read.
Yeah.
Tina?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. 500, first read.
I'm sorry, I missed who made the motion?
Rob made the
Rob.
motion and Tara seconded.
I did.
Thank you.
Tara did?
Mike, do our teachers all have to go through refresher training every year?
Yeah,
You know,
so
to sign off.
Holly, can you just summarize what training we do with our staff each year?
Yeah, right now we have, at the beginning of the year, we have training with staff. It's basically, we have a Google Classroom and we have PowerPoints for staff. I'm hoping this year, maybe I can get something a little bit different, more of a webinar type training with the changes and especially with the changes in the law, and really so staff knows, if they hear something of such a sexual nature type complaint, they have, they got to bring it forward. Right now, it's just the Google Classroom PowerPoints.
The only reason I bring it up, Holly, is our district did.
As a resource, we use, at my work, we use Skillsoft. They have a annual training that
What do you
people
use?
do as kind of as a webinar.
We do
Awesome, thank you.
slip, strips and
Yeah.
falls, sexual.
But Mike, they
harassment.
brought in, I think it's every 3 years, they bring our attorney in to go over it with the staff on, it's like for a half hour in the open. And they do,
It's not a bad idea.
they do Title IX and ID at the same time. And it's, I think it just brings it a little closer to home that what can be sexual harassment,
In today's day and age, basically everything.
well, and that's, I didn't want to say it,
That
but
was
that's,
like my-
the hug.
We may want to look, Holly, at bringing in our attorneys. I mean, it lends a certain amount of credibility to,
I think that's a good
Importance of
thing.
this.
I think that's the thing it
Yeah.
does, Mike. It kind
That's
of
what I was thinking.
gets everybody a little, I mean, I hate to say it, but
Yep.
gets everybody a little
We used to do that.
uncomfortable.
Yep.
What people have been, and I hate to say it, but as a teacher, our attorney brought up some of the stuff people have been sued for, and it's like,
I do that.
what? Well, I mean, seriously, and I don't, but they talk about, a teacher who got on the wrong side because they hug students all the time, and
Yep.
and it can lead to troubles. I think it's an important thing to make sure we understand, especially when we've got a lot of younger teachers.
Yeah.
well, look at what Concord's dealing with at the moment.
Yeah.
They've made that report public. It's redacted, but it's out now, and it's pretty interesting.
I just think it did open eyes in our district.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
it's good.
that's
It's a good point. All right. That brings us to the manifest.
So the manifest has gone around.
It's
Has
signed.
has everybody here signed it?
It has 3 signatures.
They all have
So
three
I
signatures.
will have it, Tara. It'll be available in the high
I
school.
think we only
It's
need
all
3.
set.
Oh, it's all
She
set.
can come see him if she
Oh,
wants.
if you want to see it, it'll be there, but it's been signed. So let us know.
Okay.
And by the way, Liz is going to drop a hot pink booklet off for you.
That's the one I picked up.
And that is the collective bargaining agreement. So
It'll be in your mailbox.
you'll find it in your mailbox, okay?
So that brings us to public input.
I had one email and my laptop has died, so I don't have the sender information. But the question was raised, and I know we have kind of discussed it off the record, of looking into changing the mascot of LMS from the Native American mascot with the Raiders team name, in light of kind of the attention brought to racial inequities and injustice. And
But you bring that up, but it's already on our next agenda.
well, I don't know that.
I know, that's why I'm telling you.
Good, I'm glad it is.
It will be on our next agenda for discussion.
Yeah, I feel it's, in this day and age, I feel like it's inappropriate, to have a Native American mascot when we have cats for the other two schools. I never really
I
understood
think of
that.
a Raider. I
Well-
don't think of a Native American.
Well, and being,
Because it's blue.
and our kids being
I-
Raiders, I don't think, I want my kids to be
Phillip, That was
Raiders.
an actual Native American.
I don't
Yeah.
want to cause a big turmoil, but what a great point to kind of get our schools in line. Cubs. I don't know, something medium. You have Cubs and you have,
Tigers, we have tigers at GMS.
well, no,
I already
but
shot
go,
that one
you know,
Yeah.
It's
but the bigger one to me is getting our team so our kids don't have to go from blue warm-ups to
Yeah.
red. Getting our colors.
true.
Getting
I would really
this would
like
be
to
a
see
good
that, too.
opportunity if we're going to do it to look.
Yeah.
At
Let's
getting,
wait one more year while one of them's out of school. You can change it for fifth grade coming in. Oh my God, uniforms.
No, but it would be a good time to get them in line. Where you have
Yep.
red all the way, red and
Hard to
black.
hear Rob. Is he talking about changing the color of the school?
Yeah.
Rob
Yeah,
is
we're gonna paint
suggesting
it
that
green.
we-
No.
I'm so in favor of that. Yeah. There's,
So
There's a lot of
yes,
swag floating out there, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
if we put it all to bed, it'll become vintage and worth something.
yeah.
I can't tell you how many GMS Tiger water botters we still have hanging
Oh
around
my
like
God.
this from field day.
So yes, it will be on the agenda for
Okay.
conversation at our next meeting. Okay. All right. So that'll bring us to going back into non-public,
It's only 7:30.
We're going back in?
just for a few
Blue
minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
policies.
Seriously, a few minutes.
Does the board want, it's been hinted a couple times, so just looking at the upcoming meetings.
Mhm.
So the 29th is a one agenda item.
I'm not,
Sep-
gonna- the 29th and 5th, when we talked about meetings like
Right.
a month ago.
Because you'd already made plans, but yeah, maybe a soccer season will be done by then.
No. Well, it won't be done. It's only what, 2 weeks, right?
Right.
But my assistant coach is a camp counselor, so we really had it. So I'm the only one that's gonna be there. So I don't get done till 7. So 8 before I get back into town at the earliest.
Is there a way for Rob to get the draft
Sure.
and for the board to get the draft? Because if it's anything like the state thing, it's going to be 54 pages long.
It's
I
not
don't know
going
if
to be that
can-
long.
Could you start
but-
at 7? I mean, I hate to ask.
What's
Would you
that?
wanna- Would you want to start at 7 and I'll be here as soon as I can,
I just have a feeling it's gonna be a long meeting.
Yeah, especially with public input.
or just start
I
it?
mean, what we can do too is just have discussion on the side, Rob, you and I, or if you want to with Tina,
Your concerns are,
you know,
if you
as
haven't.
far as some thoughts. I mean, we're not gonna come down to any, like, I don't think, final conclusions on that day anyway, so. Which may lead us to like needing the 5th, but I think we can still wait till the 29th to decide that.
You
Yeah,
have it
but,
into the state, though, don't
there are a
you?
bunch of things. Michelle and I were talking and several people have said, oh, can we just sneak this in on the 29th? And I have held the
No.
line to say it's a one topic.
Yeah.
It's too much. So
Yeah.
it's leading me to believe that
So,
we might need the 5th just because there's other stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess we can wait till the 29th to decide that, but I want to say it publicly here, especially with the board. If you have, plan on the 5th is, I guess,
Did you
more or
go to
less what I'm
the,
asking.
I hate to ask, could you go to the Tuesday? It's just Mondays and Wednesdays are my soccer. I don't know if you could
no, we
do
could. I
them.
mean, no one says it's whether or not the room's available too.
Or with Thursday. I mean, it doesn't, but it's just Monday and Wednesday. I always want to have committed.
I don't have a problem switching dates. I don't know about
And
anybody.
I kill,
I will tell you.
If you were willing to bump it to the 30th, so give us an extra day, I would appreciate that.
what days
Actually,
not?
that will
That's the
help,
Thursday.
right?
So
Your
instead
meetings.
of Wednesday the 29th, if we do
I just-
Thursday the 30th.
Let me tell you right now, I can't tell you how many girls were like so excited
fine
to
with
be
me.
outside with their friends, even though they had the social, they were like ecstatic
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
just to
bet.
be running around.
I had no problem doing Thursday.
I can do the
How about you,
30th.
Tara?
I'm fine with that, but moving to the
Yeah.
30th.
And
I
can we,
think
can we, are you available early?
Oh yeah, I'm
Okay.
anytime.
So that'd be easier.
The earlier the
So
better.
Thursday at 5 will be our
4 or
plan.
5, whatever time you want.
Are you in meeting, because we don't have the meeting on, we're not up against the task force meeting, right? So that'll give you guys a chance after all the task force meetings to.
Tell me, I mean, whatever.
I
works
could
for
mean
you.
meet at 3. That's
Fine.
it.
I mean, I can do
Yeah.
that. Tara works.
Tara, can you do 3:00 on Thursday?
Yep, I think so.
The 30th?
Here we go.
So we're going to make that
guys.
7:30
It's okay.
at
Oh,
3 p.m. We'll consider doing it at the high school so that we can be physically
Yeah.
present. That hinders us with TV
Oh,
though.
You can't record in the auditorium anymore?
How about myself? I can record it.
Could like I help you, Rob, or no? Would you need somebody?
He works, my engineer works, maybe me and Jason can figure it out.
Well, if you can, as long as you can record it, I mean, I think that's the most important thing.
Definitely can record it.
So will it go YouTube live at that point or not?
Well, there'll be nothing live, but I'll
Okay.
record it and I'll put it on YouTube.
Yeah, so if it comes down to that, that's how you have to do it, then I think that's
I'm
fine.
always gonna record it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I work nights. Thursday's actually my Sunday, so I'm home all day.
Right, because even if it's
Yeah.
live, it's not really gonna change anything if you do it the next day.
right. We'll still have the 5th to button up and tweak
Need be, yeah.
if need be. Yeah, okay. The 30th then, not the 29th.
If that's your Sunday, can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
How long do you think it's gonna last?
Ooh,
Oh, gee.
couple hours.
5 hours.
I thought tonight was gonna go till 10, so I had no
Bedtime
idea.
is usually 8 o'clock. That'll happen.
We may have to order pizza.
We can
If
just do
we're
a
having
dead stop.
public
too.
input at 3:00, what about,
But I think if we're going to do public, we can't have people up there.
No.
I think we need rules.
Well, I
Yes.
think it's gonna be a presentation.
Correct. I really think that this is more us, the,
Ms. Haas.
the oversight committee presenting to the board
Mhm.
and then an opportunity for the public to respond. You know,
it's not that?
I would say
this expectation is unreasonable and I think it's silly. So don't say that, right? And
Say
then
that.
the board will have to decide on that
I mean,
expectation.
if we look and there's 50 people, can we say you limit it to 1 minute?
Oh, you have to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we don't need to hear the same question 6 times over the same point.
Right.
But I think as far as the meeting, yeah, so you're thinking the auditorium?
Or the
Or
gym,
library?
or the gym. I'm just thinking space wise.
The gym might be better.
Can you record in the gym, Rob?
I can record in the gym.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want a comfy seat though,
Everybody bring a
not the
tank
bleachers.
top and a shirt.
Yeah, some cushion in there.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's
breathe in there.
it's soupy, but all
Soupy.
Soupy. Ugh.
right,
TMS is soupy.
Can't be
perfect.
worse
So
than
we'll do that
And
and
then we'll come up
and
with guidelines as far as, people coming in that they'll have to check their temperature,
Mask.
mask.
Well, we've already got the guidelines, right?
it's already in play.
We're
Um,
still meeting.
and the fifth, we're holding on the 5th. So that's
Yeah, it's still a hold and our next schedule is the 19th.
Well, we
but
can we
everybody's
change the date on the 5th right now.
Oh, to the.
to make it the
The
6th.
6th. I can't not do it.
Hang on.
So,
Everybody check the 6th
Or the
and see if
4th.
you can.
Can you text me a reminder, Liz? I don't
Yes.
have my phone
The 4th
and
or
my
it
laptop
doesn't-
died, so I can't
Oh,
put it in my
Monday and
calendar.
Wednesdays.
Thank you.
So what exactly are we discussing on the 30th? The task force is presenting
Yep.
to the school board.
Correct.
You were just not here 3 minutes ago?
You,
I was,
you're,
but I didn't-
you're receiving the report.
So
And
all the members
recommendations.
of the task force will be up there. How are we gonna keep them socially?
No,
distanced?
it will be the
Okay.
facilitators.
Okay,
It'll be the oversight committee that has recommended it, and the facilitators will be available
Okay,
to
that's
support.
Answer
Yeah.
questions.
Are we voting on that the same night, or is that the following week, or?
It all depends. That's why we're leaving the 5th open,
6th.
or 6th.
are we gonna have a survey before
The
that?
Conservation Committee has a meeting on the 6th, but they tend to have it in the other room.
Yeah.
I want to
Well,
double check.
I think if we do it on the 6th, it'd be the same thing. It would be probably possibly in the gym or the auditorium, because I have a feeling that,
Okay.
well, we'll be able to, let's put it this way, on the 30th, we'll have a better idea of like
Yes.
what's going to happen.
Yeah,
But I think I'm also with the 6th also.
Thank you.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'll be in the Cape that week, so I will,
Be hard broadcasting from there.
try very hard to find somebody. to-
We could all come with you.
Come on down.
Broadcast from the Cape, live.
Depends what part.
It doesn't have to be. No one knows, just do it.
Yeah,
Board retreat.
Just don't have the beach behind you.
yeah.
Right.
Well, the 6th ending is tentative right now anyway,
Mhm.
so.
So there's an
Thank you.
expectation that we'll get this ahead of time, is that what I'm hearing?
So Tara, just given the realities of this, getting it out to you on Friday is probably going to be tight. Our goal is,
Oh, I was thinking just a couple days in advance. I was thinking, well, maybe we would just get it the day of, so
Yeah.
at least
Our-
we get it.
our goal is to get it out in advance of that. And remember, the other thing is we have committed to the community that early August, we're telling them what we're doing. So, so that'll be their first look at it, and they'll have an opportunity to give input and feedback, and then the board will have to make final decisions, and we go from there.
All right,
Good one.
so the 30th and the 6th,
All right,
Hey, what time was the 6th at again, sorry?
3:00.
at 3. I do like the 3 PM. I want to thank the board for that.
2:00 would be fine with me too.
That's my nap.
10
That's
o'clock
what
in
you
the
get for
morning.
having a board full of teachers.
So are we doing August 5th or 6th?
6th.
Tentatively,
At 3 for that one too?
yeah.
I just
That's
sent
fine.
you reminders to you.
Oh, thank you. If anybody sees a phone where the lock screen is Mary Poppins, it's mine.
You lost your phone?
I don't know where I put it.
You could have brought it out to your car.
You lost it today?
Yeah, like between the parking lot and in here.
Check the bathroom.
Volume on? Wasn't it here earlier?
I
That's mine.
thought so.
That was mine. It went off the
I
alarm.
thought she had hers
I
at the
thought I had
beginning.
it too.
Is your
Can you check
phone-
the manifest?
So that'll bring us to non-public then.
See if it's in the manifest.
Tina, is your phone on?
All
I think
we
so.
need is
It'll vibrate.
power.
Okay, are you voting to go in, or do you have to roll call it in, or?
Roll call,
Yeah.
go into non-public.
Tara,
Non-public? Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Yes.
Liz, Rob,
Yes.
and Brian, yes. We're in non-public.
All right, so Michelle and Corey, you're good. I will, Michelle, get you the notes in the morning as to who adjourned and all of that,
It's in my bag.
So you didn't lose my key, did you?
and the time.